Welcome to episode 104 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is ready to party like it's 1999, John Scott Sloat.
Why is that? Why
it's a song title.
I understand that, yeah.
Because this is the last episode of the year. When this episode drops, we're going to be 3 days away from New Year's Eve.
Okay.
And I know you're a big
late night,
live it up. I mean, I'm sure you already have plans in place for your New Year's Eve.
Yeah, maybe.
When was the last time you were actually awake for the turn of the year?
I think last year. I stayed up last year. Yeah,
I
think I stay up most years. Yeah.
Are you? See, Kate and I have stopped staying up that late for a while now.
I like watching the ball drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Andrea make it to midnight?
I'm trying to remember last year. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think she did.
Okay.
But I stayed up. I like seeing the ball drop.
Okay.
I always enjoyed watching the Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve.
Yeah. Don't they still call it that? But now they just
It's Ryan Seacrest.
But I think they still call it that.
Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, yeah.
Yeah, hosted by Ryan Seacrest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a long time since New Year's Eve has really meant much of anything to me.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't want to stay up till midnight?
Why?
I tradition.
Okay. I mean, I remember when I was in college and post-college, yes, but that's probably because during that season of life, my normal bedtime was closer to midnight than it is now. Mm-hmm. But you're a guy who's in bed by 9 o'clock most nights.
Yep, and probably will be on New Year's Eve. You know, we'll probably be in bed, but I'll stay up and watch the ball drop.
Okay. All right. So yes, this is the last episode we're recording of 2021.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you remember how there was all this talk at the end of 2020, all this sort of excitement of, 2020 was such a miserable year with COVID and a contentious presidential election and everything. So man, 2021 is just going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much.
I mean, I thought it was a fine year. I mean, a number of those things you have to tune out, but
yeah, I see. I get it.
But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So let's do our formalities here. If you'd like to reach the show, you can find us on Twitter at VNSPod. Email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube, Various and Sundry Podcast. We would love for you to leave a review and a 5-star rating on whatever platform you manage to consume the podcast. So this is a special episode because it is our last of the year, our State of the Pod / Year in Review episode.
Yep.
And we're recording it a week plus early.
Right. You and I are traveling.
Yeah. Where are you going to be?
I think by the time this drops, I'll be back in town, but going to North Carolina for Christmas.
Yeah, I will still be in Omaha, Nebraska.
Classic Christmas city of Omaha.
It is. I mean, that's clearly why Peyton Manning used the word Omaha for his audibles, right?
Yeah, for his fondness of the holiday season.
I mean, yeah, it's quite a town. So, actually, it's not bad. It's a nice sized city, actually. So to prevent us from having to record over Zoom or try to squirrel away time from different parts of the country, we're going a week early. So instead of doing our typical sports segment, we are actually going to talk about top sports stories of 2021.
Yeah.
So why don't you get us started, John? Why don't you hit us up with a story? Again, we're working off of a website here. We're not going to talk about all of these because, quite frankly, some of them we just don't care about.
Some of them aren't important, but we want to hit several of them.
Yeah.
Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
I mean, that feels like a big deal. I don't like it either, but it was a big deal when it happened, right?
Yes,
I mean,
it
he
was.
moved from New England to Tampa.
Yes.
Had the whole Tampa Bay thing, and
Yep.
and won the Super Bowl at like 48.
Yeah. Yeah. It is remarkable that he managed to do that. And I remember going into that game, all the talk was about Patrick Mahomes and a sort of passing of the torch, right?
Yes.
Okay, because Mahomes is obviously, going to be the greatest quarterback ever according to all the hype. He's really good, by the way.
He's very, very good.
Like
yes.
I'm not denigrating him. I'm just saying we live in our hype culture where it's like, oh my gosh, he's the next greatest quarterback here. And when he beats Brady, it's the passing of the torch. He'll have won 2 Super Bowls.
He doesn't have ice water in his veins.
Did
like
not
Brady
work out
does.
that
Yeah.
way. So, but yeah. Another one. This one, until I looked at the list, I'd kind of forgotten about this. Tiger Woods surviving a very scary car accident.
Yes.
You remember back in February, he
in California,
Yep.
right?
Yep. And I think there were never reports that he was like dead, but some of the early reports were like he is in like serious critical condition from this car accident, and learning later that the doctors thought at one point they might have to amputate one of his like lower half of his leg or something because it was so crushed, I think, in the car accident.
Wild.
So,
Fast forward to this weekend,
yeah,
or a couple weekends
Right.
ago in the
Whenever.
future. Yeah.
Yes.
Where he played a tournament with his son,
Yeah.
which his son was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's not surprising. But I did hear some commentators saying, like, Tiger's striking the ball well, but he doesn't have the power anymore. And just because of the injuries, he doesn't have the same explosive power. So, but, it's great that he managed to survive that crash and can still, go out and play golf with his kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you're up next. Who you got? What do you got?
Fans returning to stadiums.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. I mean, I remember it felt like the first game back. I mean, I think I remember watching Mets opening day at Citi Field, or what ended up being like the 4th game of the season, right?
Yeah.
And just like tearing up a little bit because I'm like, oh my goodness, we're back to normal.
Yeah, I think just seeing fans back in the stadium makes such a difference. For me, it was more watching college football to feel the wow, this is the experience. Loud crowds that make a difference, and even true in professional football. I mean, you and I going to the Colts game, like it was loud in the stadium. You just don't appreciate even on TV necessarily how loud the stadium and how difficult it is to communicate and what a difference that makes in the actual play of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go with my next one here as off this list, athletes getting protective of their mental health. And in particular, you had Simone Biles, the gymnast, who received – it was a very mixed reaction to her.
Absolutely,
stepping
very mixed.
out of a couple of events in the Olympics.
Particularly the team competition.
Yes.
That was the big one.
And that being sort of a divisive issue of some people calling her soft or weak, that's ridiculous. The woman has proven herself over years of competition. She's not soft. Okay,
Sure.
So whatever you think of her decision not to compete, it's not because she's soft, but just that reignited discussions about athletes and mental health.
Mental health, as well as Simone Biles also has a connection to the Larry Nassar situation as well. And that's shown a light on that also.
Yeah.
So, yes, that was a fascinating story to watch happen.
Yeah.
Were you able to watch a good bit of the Olympics this year?
Some.
Okay.
Not a ton.
I watched a little. I did not catch as much as I usually like to.
Yeah, the time difference made it hard.
Yeah.
And now living in an era where unless you really work to keep yourself isolated from what the results are, you already know what the results are of the events you care about
Yep.
before you ever can watch them in prime time, so to speak. So, and I think, and wasn't there's been some issues with, I feel like there have been some tennis players as well who have stepped out of tournaments because of mental health concerns. And I forget.
Naomi Osaka.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly because of her contentious relationship with the press, stepped out. And just sort of on that same note, there's and this is probably a little bit different from these two stories, but there's been the Chinese tennis player who on, I believe, Instagram called out a member of the Chinese Communist Party for sexual abuse and disappeared, and is now, I think, even on December 20th has said, "Oh, I made that all up. It's not true."
Yeah.
Which everybody in the world is just like, "Oh my goodness, what is happening over there?" So there's certainly a different story there, right? But certainly related to this topic as well.
Yeah. Yeah. How about we each go one more maybe?
Sure. I need to scroll through the rest of the list to make sure I get what I want.
It's probably not going to be the horse racing one.
Probably not the horse. Although I love the Kentucky Derby. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I will, as I'm just scrolling through the rest of these, I'll go Coach K's retirement.
That was a big deal.
Coach K announcing this is his last season. Mm-hmm. That is a big deal. And then who's going to take his place?
Well, I thought they'd announced already who's going to take his place, didn't they?
Did they?
I thought it's going to be one of his assistants that's going to be promoted up. For mine, I'm going to cheat and take two, but they're from the same sport.
Wow.
So I know. It's my podcast.
The soccer ones, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
College football. I think two massive stories. One is Cincinnati making the college football playoff, the first non-Power 5 conference team to make the college football playoff. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Texas and Oklahoma defecting to the SEC and launching this new round of realignment and chaos within college football.
And even coaches. That seems to be part of the move.
I think that's probably connected there as well with the fascinating coaching carousel that started at the end of the season with LSU firing Ed Orgeron, and then Lincoln Riley going to USC, and then Brian Kelly going to LSU, and all sorts of craziness. So,
yeah.
All right, so there's our sports segment. You ready to move into our main topic, the State of the Pod / Year in Review?
Yeah. Let's. I don't know what we're going to do really for State of the Pod. I think
let's do a status report here in terms of just kind of numbers and that sort of stuff.
Sure. Well,
how about we start with do you want to start with countries we're in?
Sure. Sorry, I'm pulling up statistics just for this year.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So our biggest country, any guesses?
The United States.
Yeah, the United States. Second biggest country.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me.
Oh, you've got it in front of you.
I do.
Well, that's
going to take some of the suspense out of it.
Yeah. We're big in Germany.
Yeah. And it's got a decent lead over the next country.
Over the next two that are tied, right? So Germany comes in well behind the United States, obviously.
Yeah.
But France and Finland following up, which I love the Finland there.
Yes. There's another country in there that we can't mention, but right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I love
that's our third most popular, third largest listening audience. Yeah, but Finland.
I love having Finland up there. I know no one there. I have been there and loved every minute of it.
Helsinki is a remarkable city.
It was really beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we're just very pro Helsinki on this pod, and they just appreciate any sort of press they get.
Yeah. And then you got the Netherlands coming in there.
I mean, we've had several downloads from India, Australia, Russia this year. Brazil had several.
Yeah.
I think, it's been a fun year to watch the podcast pop up all over the world. Any guess on number of downloads for this calendar year?
I don't have that in front of me, so
I know that's where the bit works a little bit better.
Okay. For the year?
For the year. So from January 1 of 2021 to middle of December.
Probably 8,000, 8,500, somewhere around there.
9,100, 9,150.
Okay.
9,150.
All right.
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'm always bewildered that we have as many listeners as we do.
Yeah.
And we appreciate them, even though we
do.
rag on them from time to time.
We do. Well, only on some of them.
Only on some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notre Dame fans. Any guesses as to what our most downloaded day of the year was this year?
No. I mean, I didn't we? I feel like I remember we had a day where we had like 150 downloads, but I can't remember.
So I have the highest day as December 3rd.
This recent.
This recent. 129.
Okay. Yeah.
129. Which I don't know what happens on those days.
I don't know. Well, my guess is what happens is someone new discovers the podcast and they download all the episodes. So that's like 100 episodes that they download in one shot. And then the others are just the sort of the normal.
The normies.
Yeah.
Working their way through.
Yeah. So I think that's probably anytime I see a spike like that, I think there's a new listener. Someone found the podcast and downloaded all of them.
Yep. So. I do wonder on some of our, back to our countries, I do wonder if people have VPNs set up and let's just, let's download these episodes like we're in Finland or something like that. I
don't know. I'd like to keep the dream alive that we have a listening audience in Finland. And if you are part of that listening audience, we would be so up for a live episode in Helsinki or anywhere else in Finland, actually.
Yeah. Or we would frankly just like to hear from you. If you're in another country listening regularly, we would love to hear from you and love to hear just why and who you are and maybe even interview you on the pod. I think that would be a lot of fun to interact with our listeners in that way.
Absolutely. Do you have our most popular episode for the year?
Oh gosh.
Like most downloaded episode. Can you pull that up quickly?
Let me see. Oh, I did it.
There should be a way to do that. From this past year.
Well, that might be all time.
Yeah, I mean, some of our interview episodes. I mean, I think from in 2020, weren't the Dane Ortland episodes pretty?
Yeah, Dane Ortland is still one of our most downloaded episodes of all time.
Yeah. I bumped into him at ETS. Did I tell this story? I bumped into him at ETS. And
you told me this story. I don't know that you told it on pod.
And basically joked with him that we were responsible for the explosion of popularity of his book and that he got a big chuckle out of that. So in any case, anything else in terms of numbers? Why don't you check states? Like let's check what states.
You want to hop in on states?
Yeah.
Let me do one other just data point.
Okay.
All time. So from the start of the podcast till now, we've had 17,000 downloads.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we had 9,000 this year, which means
basically same as a steady
increase.
We've set into a good audience here, a good consistent audience.
Okay. I have states pulled up.
Okay.
What do you have it pulled up as well?
I don't.
Okay. This will keep the bit alive then. Obviously, the state we live in is our most populous state.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name the second most populous? Like, where's it downloaded the second most? What would be your guess?
My guess is Ohio.
It's Ohio. What about third?
Third. I mean, I'm tempted to stay in the region and just go Michigan.
It's Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's still in the region.
And then Michigan is next.
Okay.
But there are 5 states we have no downloads in for the year. 5 states.
Okay.
Any guesses? 5 states. No downloads.
I'm not looking. Okay, so I don't have Idaho.
We have one download in Idaho. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we have a download in Idaho.
Montana.
No, we have downloads in Montana. Sorry, I missed one where you have 6 states with no downloads.
Hawaii.
We have a download in Hawaii.
I'm doing so terribly at this. Let's see. Gosh, can I hit any that we don't have? Alaska?
Alaska, we have no downloads in Alaska.
Okay. So if you have an Alaskan friend, you need to tell him or her to.
So that might be on me. I had a student in Alaska this year.
You did? Through Deploy?
Through Deploy, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's a missed opportunity.
That is a missed opportunity, yeah. Looking back, I'm full of regret.
Okay.
So Alaska's one of them.
All right. Gosh. Can you give me a region?
Let me throw this out there.
Okay.
Many, 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 many national parks.
Utah?
Getting close, but not Utah. We have we have a download in Utah. A lot of states with one download.
Maybe someone was on a road trip and they just downloaded an episode as they passed through the different states. State with lots of national parks?
Yeah. I mean, like the most famous national park.
Wyoming?
Wyoming. No downloads in Wyoming this year.
Really? Okay.
2 states with similar names.
Dakotas?
No downloads in the Dakotas.
Really?
Yes.
That's disappointing.
Oh gosh.
So we got one more left? Is that
two
more
left? I'm trying to think of how to give hints without giving it away. Oh goodness. One of these states, maple syrup. That's what I think of.
Vermont?
Vermont, yeah.
Okay.
No downloads in Vermont. I was trying to go like a Bernie Sanders thing there.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't think of anything. And then I think this one's the most surprising. Let me see if I can name a Christian college there that you might be able to get. John Brown University. Are you familiar with John Brown?
I am, but I don't know what state it's in. That's not going to help me.
It's in Arkansas.
Really?
No downloads in Arkansas. Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know John Brown University is built on Walmart money?
I didn't know that.
It is in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and it is the same town that the first Walmart was in. Okay. And so it is built on Walmart money.
There you go.
And let me tell you, that money is good.
That doesn't surprise me.
But yes. Arkansas, no downloads in Arkansas.
Yeah, that's disappointing. So as you think about moving forward, any hopes, aspirations for the podcast next year that you want to share on pod here?
I don't know that I have anything in particular. I think just consistency and another year.
Yeah. I mean, we've done 2 straight years of weekly content.
Yeah. That's wild to me. Yeah. I never thought we'd be able to pull that off. Now, I will say this spring and summer, my travel schedule is increasing.
Yeah.
I am a little nervous about that.
Okay.
Now, it tends to be the back half of weeks, particularly through the semester.
Yeah.
But I am nervous about that.
Okay. We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I do think one thing that we can look forward to next year is we're in negotiations. Breaking news. We're going to break some news here on the pod. We are in negotiations to do a live episode. An episode in front of a live studio audience.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We are in negotiations.
It'll happen eventually. I just don't know when.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to happen this spring. Wow. Sources close to the negotiations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because you've been taking that negotiation front.
It's fallen within my domain, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy scheduling that has been texting me about speaking in chapel this spring.
Yeah. Okay.
And wanting to meet to talk about it.
Okay.
So,
I'm a little surprised he hasn't reached out to me to speak in chapel next semester. I'm sure it's coming.
have you spoken in chapel yet this year?
Mm-mm.
No, me either. I'm normally a first semester guy.
I'm normally second semester.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's entirely intentional by this person, but
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing over there.
he's got a tough job. I'll give him that.
Anything else on the state of the pod? Anything you hope for in the next calendar year?
I'm excited to see. We haven't fully discussed or settled on who we're going to interview. We'll do some sort of summer read again, but I've got some ideas as to people we might be able to interview, and a lot of it too depends on when people visit campus, when different people come into campus to do chapel or other events. If we can sort of pull them into the studio for an hour and get some good content.
Oh shoot! I am also looking forward to doing a March Madness bracket tournament again.
Yeah,
I won last year.
Yes,
which was awesome. I've never won before, so that was a lot of fun. But I think we could do some more of those things and do like
some more direct audience participation.
Yeah, like what do you think about like next fall doing like a podcast fantasy football league?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I'm sure I would get destroyed because I just don't know enough about the kind of the fantasy guys that are a little bit more off the radar, that aren't like the big names necessarily, but are still like fantasy football beasts.
Yep.
Like I would not have guessed that Cooper Kupp is the best wide receiver for fantasy football.
One of the top ones, yeah.
Yeah. He's on one of my sons has him on his team, and he's just generating points left and right every week. So I might have to do a little bit of research, but I'd be open to considering that. Yeah, we could do that.
So that would be fun. The March Madness pool would be fun. Some more things like that would be really enjoyable.
And we've talked about in the past, done some initial research on merch.
We have. It's never come to fruition.
What we need to do is we need an intern.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'll take applications. Or we need somebody that does graphic arts who can make some fun stuff from our pod. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I've got ideas that I just don't have time to implement.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do more on social media and stuff like that. I don't have the time, and you don't have the time.
No. If somebody wanted to manage our social media for us, that would make me nervous. But if the right person came along, I think I'd be okay with it.
We'd have to trust that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. So those are some things.
Mostly. And we've made – this year we also made the move from – this is going to be in the weeds way too much, but the podcast host, like the website that hosts our podcast, moved from version 4 to 5. And in version 5 – they haven't created the feature yet to put in text for the tweet. And so that's why the tweet language has changed dramatically.
So it's just the title now of the episode, right?
It's just the title with a link.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We need to – I mean, we got all these college kids around here. Surely we can find someone. And, the institution has managed to get some grant money of late. I mean – Can we carve out a slice of that for the pod here?
I don't know. Maybe we get a grant for the pod.
Well, you're the master grant writer, so I mean that probably falls more into your realm.
That probably does. I'm unfamiliar with organizations giving money for very low level podcasts.
Yeah, well, we could use an investor, maybe someone who's willing to put some money into it, and get things going a little bit. We'll see. Maybe the Galatians commentary will suddenly just bring an explosion of listeners into the fold.
That'd be great. Yeah. Have you done many interviews for that?
I have done one or two at this point.
You expect more?
Some commentaries don't tend to get you as many interviews as sort of like Christian living kind of books. So in any case. Anything else on that before we move on to top theology stories of 2021?
I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay.
let's hammer some top theology stories.
Yeah, so rather than do the work ourselves, we're just looking at Colin Hansen's story on the Gospel Coalition website of his top 10 theology stories of 2021. And so he's got them actually listed in a certain order. Do you want to go through these quickly?
Yeah, let's go through them quickly.
Let's go through all.
What's our time frame here? Like 7 minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably. So we'll mention each one, maybe offer a couple of quick comments, and then we got to move on.
Okay. You want to start at 10 and work our way down?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the Metaverse is his first one.
Yes.
Have you done much reading about this?
Not really.
I think it's fascinating.
I mean, okay, so try to explain the concept then briefly.
I can't. I just really find it fascinating. Part of me goes, is this just a ploy to get heat off Mark Zuckerberg?
Right. So it's what used to be known as Facebook.
That's right.
They've changed their name to Meta, right? Their company name, right?
Right, to cover everything.
Right. And the metaverse, if I understand this, is essentially a virtual reality experience.
That's right. Yep.
That is supposed to be, going to change everything. So we'll see. That's one of those things I'm not sure I fully understand at this point.
Number 9, rising generation debates loyalty to pre-Reformation creeds.
Okay.
This one, I missed this one in the last year. Do you remember this one well?
Yeah, I mean, if you dig into the weeds a little bit, there's some of it has to do with understandings of the Trinity, and I think that's. But this is not one that really landed on my register.
Yeah.
So,
number 8, verdicts revive trauma from violence in 2020.
okay. So basically, there were trials in connection with several contentious cultural issues, including the murder of Ahmaud Arbery and others. So I think it's issues that came up in 2020, and now because there are court proceedings connected with those things, it sort of revives those experiences.
Yeah. Number 7, cultural and historical shape of evangelicalism scrutinized.
I was surprised this wasn't higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have put this 1 or 2 in terms of this, that there's been such a rise of discussion about evangelicalism from sociological and historical perspectives, and calling into question / criticizing certain kinds of evangelicalism, or much to my frustration, often painting with way too broad of a brush and not making helpful distinctions. So I think that I would have put that at 1 or 2.
And this has been going on for a while, right? I mean we've heard some of these criticisms for a few years now, I would say, but it seems to find a zenith, is that the right word, here in 2021. I
agree. I think in particular books like Jesus and John Wayne and on the sort of sociological, historical end of things, and then pretty consistent political criticisms of evangelical, in particular what's so-called white evangelicalism, have also become pretty contentious, I think. So,
Biden's White House advances liberal agenda as Trump's Supreme Court prepares for key decisions. That is a fascinating one to put next to each other, right?
Yep.
You do have a White House putting out a very, very liberal agenda.
Yes.
And then you have very, very conservative judicial branch also ruling in very conservative ways.
Yes. And I'm trying to look here. I do think I think it's mentioned in that paragraph there that there is a case before the Supreme Court where a number of experts think that it's at least possible that Roe versus Wade could be overturned.
Possible or even likely or even kicked back to the states. Mm-hmm. There's lots of –
not to turn this into a political discussion. I do think that's an important clarification, though, that if the Supreme Court does overturn that decision, in one sense, all that it does, and that's a big thing, is it now returns the issue of the legality of abortion to a state-by-state issue. Mm-hmm. So that one state could say complete abortion on demand, another state could say absolutely none at all, and then points in between. Yep. So it doesn't make abortion illegal. Mm-hmm. It simply returns that issue to the legislatures of each state
rather than at a federal level.
Right.
Yep. Number 5, Southern Baptists dividing lines harden in closely contested presidential election.
Yeah, that seems fair. Neither of us are Southern Baptists, but we kind of keep our eyes on the
Well,
SBC.
you could erase the word Southern Baptist and just put evangelical.
Yeah.
All right, number 4, Afghanistan withdrawal threatens persecuted Christians.
Yeah,
we did an episode on that, or we did part of an episode on that.
That's a story I can't even think about much very long without being sick to my stomach.
Yeah. Number 3, vaccines add to church division over COVID measures.
Yep. In many respects, kind of the culminating issue of COVID debates within the church.
Yeah. Number 2, the rise and fall of Mars Hill podcast. We're going to do an episode on this later, right?
We will. Yeah. So the final episode has come out, and they promised a bonus episode or two, I think.
Maybe.
But I think we'll be in a position in January to be able to give a whole episode to talking through that.
Yeah, I mean, it takes like 3 days to listen to that final episode, right?
It's like 2.5 hours. Yeah.
And number 1, U.S. Capitol storming unleashes fury of debate over Christian
Flurry? Yeah. Flurry of debate over Christian nationalism.
Over Christian nationalism.
Yeah, I think that's some of these are kind of interconnected, right? So I think that one is in one sense connected to cultural and historical shape of evangelicalism scrutinized, as well as Southern Baptist dividing lines hardening in closely contested several of those are kind of different manifestations of the same issues for sure.
Well, as well as Southern Baptist divided over contested presidential search. Yeah. So we'll put the link in the show notes to this article, and you can go back and look at the last 12 years of his top stories.
Yep. Colin Hansen does this every year, and it's helpful. Even if I don't necessarily agree with every listing, it's always he definitely has his hand on the pulse of evangelicalism and the historical significance of things happening.
All right, I'm going to go back to 2010 just to. Oh boy, some of these are pretty tame.
It was a kinder, gentler time in 2010.
Crystal Cathedral files for bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's. It must have been after Mark Driscoll had spoken there. You knew he spoke there, right?
Oh, yes,
from the pod.
Yep. I remember when that happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to move on here to wrap up the State of the Pod episode. I do have our segment of Today in Sports History, so this will be for December 28th. John, you want to work us through those?
Sure. In 1905, Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the USA founded, becoming the NCAA in 1910.
That's kind of a big deal. The NCAA is a big deal.
Yeah. 1958, the greatest game ever played, Baltimore Colts win the 26th NFL championship against the New York Giants, 23-17 at Yankee Stadium in the first ever sudden death overtime game in NFL history. 17 future Hall of Famers.
Yeah, can we pause for a minute? In my anti-hype sort of crusade, I grow weary of the greatest game ever played, game of the century. Like we have like a game of the century every year. It feels like.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, so I'm not debating.
You're calling.
I'm.
You're calling out the 1950s as overhyping this.
Yes.
game? Yes. Okay. 1975, the Hail Mary. With 32 seconds left in the NFC divisional playoff game, Cowboys quarterback Roger Staubach throws a 50-yard winning touchdown pass to Drew Pearson to defeat the Vikings. Wow. And the Hail Mary play is born. I did not know this. I kind of expected this to be more of a Catholic city sort of thing. I was thinking like maybe Baltimore or...
Yeah, you didn't know that was the origins of it?
I did not.
Okay.
I mean, I know what a Hail Mary is, right?
Right, obviously. And isn't it interesting that has come into common use well outside of sports now?
Oh, yeah.
Or
religion.
Yeah. That, you could be facing some sort of dire situation and you hear people say something like, well, all we have left is this Hail Mary. And, they may not even know the religious significance of it or even the sports significance of it. It's just this phrase that's taken on a life of its own of we need some miracle basically to happen.
2008, Detroit Lions crashed to a 31-21 loss to Green Bay at Lambeau Field. First team to go winless in a season.
Yeah. Did you see, by the way, we're recording this a week early, but they beat the Cardinals.
Yeah, that was wild.
That was a team that was, 10-3? Something like that?
Yeah.
So the NFL's crazy. Do you have a preference out of that?
Maybe the Hail Mary might be the most significant on the list.
I'm going to go there too. I think I agree with
1975, the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Also, I'm surprised it's not older than that.
Well, I don't know, 75. I mean, it's 47 years ago, 46, 70.
I suppose so.
So, Hail Mary it is.
All right. Doc, one thing you liked.
So I recently finished a book by Michael Morales called Who Shall Ascend the Mountain of the Lord? A Biblical Theology of the Book of Leviticus. It's not a light read. I'll give you that. So this is not a sort of beach read / vacation read. It's more intense than that. But if you're ever going to do any sort of studying or teaching on the book of Leviticus, this is must-have. It is genius-level stuff.
Okay. Where's Morales at? What school is he at?
Oh, goodness. He's at Greenville.
South Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I will recommend a podcast. I have been listening, and I would say the last several episodes have been really, really good, called The Argument. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of The Argument?
Maybe.
So it's a New York Times podcast where they bring up a topic and they bring on two people to talk about it and have a discussion. I'll particularly recommend the episode they did on whether Facebook or Meta is a monopoly and should be broken up. That was fascinating, fascinating discussion. Even though it sounds dull, it was a fascinating conversation.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, John, we have come to the end of the year for the pod.
Right.
Another year in the books.
104 episodes, 104 weeks.
Yeah. We are the Cal Ripken of the podcasting world.
I'd say so.
The question is, when's it going to end, John?
There's lots of travel coming up.
Will we get through 2022 without missing a week?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Will the world still exist at the end of 2022? That's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a fair question.
Yeah, maybe Jesus will come back and we'll wrap this thing up and we won't even remember that there was such a thing as the Various and Sundry podcast.
The VNS will be in heaven. I'm convinced.
We are grateful that you listen to this thing. It's something that we do for fun and appreciate you as listeners and hope that you have a blessed 2022. So I think ready to call mission accomplished, John?
I think so.
Okay. We have covered our various and sundry topics, and so all that's left to say is until next year, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.